Regular tempo from the beginning.
Music is so important.
Music is really emotional.
Music is the most important part of the process.
You know, when you analyze the elements that make a movie, music is so important. It's so fundamental.
Rob picks music that literally works in concert with the dialogue and the jets and the rest of the sound effects.
We have BT, who's doing the score we did Fast and Furious with. We have Incubus, who's doing 3 original songs and really a 4th song. David Bowie, Chrissy Hine. It's kind of an all-star cast.
When I was analyzing the musical needs of Stealth, I really wanted to go somewhere with the music that was beyond the normal orchestral stuff. It needed many traditional elements, but if that's all we did, I think the film would feel less new.
He knew coming into the project that he really wanted to work with BT on the score. They had worked together before, and he felt like for this project it would be sort of the perfect match.
So Brian, 30 years old, coming from a world where he has both the classical education at Berklee School of Music in Boston, but he also grew up on turntables, iPods, and Mac computers. I went and I said to Brian, you can write the whole score, but you're going to have to really stretch, because it isn't going to be break beats and club vibe. It's going to be emotional narrative, which is a whole art of writing music to fit a movie, highlight the important emotions without trying to compete negatively with the images.
Rob is, an unbelievable director to work with. I just consider him not only a friend, but a great collaborator. He's someone that pushes me immensely into places that often, as a composer, are uncomfortable. And it's from those places that I usually write my best work. He said, I really want your electronic thing, but I want to see how far you can go with this orchestral stuff.
I want this film to sound new, but I don't want it to sound too new. So I told Brian my half-step theory. When you're Schoenberg, Bartók, or Stravinsky, these composers take these full steps. You're hearing music, but you think it sounds like dissonance and it doesn't have the structure you're used to. It's only later with explanation and familiarity that Rite of Spring becomes something you can listen to and go, wow, that's as great as Mozart or Beethoven or any of the easier, accessible composers to us. But when you read about these composers in their time, they also were moving at full steps from what was traditional or understood, and therefore misunderstood in their own time. Well, I don't want to be misunderstood in my own time. I want to be understood in my own time, but I want to try to do it with something new. I said, we need to get a half step forward.
So basically, as written, piano.
Typically, people come to me for things that are more, rock, breakbeat, electronic orientated. So for Rob to say, this is your moment to shine as an orchestral composer is like, all right, man, I got to step up, As a composer, you sit behind a computer, a Pro Tools rig, whatever, for months and months and months and write all these cues, and, you use samples. And so to hear this actualized by an orchestra is the moment of great reward. So this is what you live for, is coming here to a place like this and getting to hear every note and every line of counterpoint you've written actualized. So that's what we're here doing.
We're sitting there at the console and taking pieces of music and gathering it all together, and we'll go back to LA, mix it, and put it up against the picture.
This is like the equivalent of finishing a record and then getting to go on tour. You get to go and play your work for people every night, get feedback from it, and the feedback in this is getting to actually hear it played properly. So sonically, the acoustics in here are phenomenal. really good, dude.
This is the most emotionally fulfilling part of the whole process for me. Because when the music is original to this film, the film kind of finds a voice that's implied in all the visual stuff, implied in all the dialogue, implied in all the design. But when the music comes, it is in fact
Randy, let's
a
do
unique
every
work.
island.
It's a very emotional thing for a director. It's like hearing the baby cry right after the birth. And this is that moment.
Sounds really balanced to me, man. It's great.
It's great. Let's do it.
I mean, this is what I live for. Recording a large room of musicians and feeling that collective creative energy is why I'm in this business. Because of the digital world and film editing is done digitally now, the editors are changing things to the last minute. So there's no such thing as a locked picture anymore. So the cut is changing all the time. Well, if the cut changes all the time and the music has to then compensate for this changed cut, it becomes this snowball effect where nothing is ever done. I don't think movies get finished that much anymore. I think movies just run out of time and then get released.
So BT came to me and he said, what would you think of granular synthesis as an idea for the movie? And I said, I think it's a great idea. Just first explain to me granular synthesis. And he started to tell me about the ability to deconstruct notes and instruments, perhaps divide one note into 2,000 parts and rearrange them digitally, in Pro Tools or whatever, write algorithms that will rearrange notes from the inside. And I went, that's a great idea. That's Eddie. That's Eddie's voice. Eddie is capable of taking anything in the human range, deconstructing it, and rearranging it to his own desires.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So I thought, let's try to emulate this synthesis technique, but using orchestra. And I said, I have an idea to make all our string players play with pens, aleatoric rhythms. And Rob's like, cool, dude, try it, And, typically, you're working with a director and they just be like, come on, you're not wasting, thousands and thousands of dollars of orchestral time trying out having the orchestra play with pens, But then we do it and it sounds amazing.
Here we go. 8 clicks. We're just going to record this thing, violins and the violas with the pens.
But I need themes. And he played me one M1, and it had both the granular synthesis, and it also had big, French horns. And I was going, oh man, we got it all. Right here in one cue, it indicates where we need to go with this movie. What's fun in movies is you can develop your own language as long as there's an agreement what it means. I would say to Brian, I need muscularity. And he would know what it meant. I need a vulnerability, but poignancy cannot be overruled by strength. It sounds like double talk, but it isn't, as long as two people understand where you're going.
Rob will say things to me like, let's tacit the brass, or how about a Piatti's hit on the downbeat? It's like me knowing something about cinematography or something, I have no idea, like the depth of field of something is wrong, you know what I mean? So it's amazing how much he actually speaks and can communicate music.
Rob said,